Hi everyone, so if you're watching this video, it's because you are wanting to learn how to create soft, subtle textural walls with our Artisan Premium Chalk Paint. Now, Premium Chalk Paint is a really rich, full body paint, high in quality, and it's easily manipulated to create all sorts of different paint effects. Now, it's loved by so many out there for creating paint effects on furniture, but today what I'm going to show you is how to create a beautiful, soft, subtle, textural paint effect on your walls. So it feels really smooth to the touch. It has varied sheen levels. It's got really super soft, subtle, lived-in textures. It's simple to do with a little bit of know-how, and we're not using wax or lacquers to seal the premium chalk paints. We're going to use quite a traditional method, and I'm going to show you how in the video. So if you're looking to create soft textural lived-in walls, this video is for you. I'm going to be using the color Imperial Linen in the Artisan Premium Chalk Paint range, but obviously you can use any one of the 67 colors. With this technique, the soft neutrals are very, very pretty. Great for doing a neutral wall if you're looking to do like an off-white or something like that, but you're wanting something with a little bit of interest. But it also looks very striking and very dramatic with the deep colors as well. So something like Clubhouse Grey, Old Espresso, even Carbon Black. So let's get straight into the video, because I know with a lot of these videos there's a lot of talking at the beginning, but I want to get straight into it and I can kind of talk you through as we go through. So let's get started. Okay, so you can see my shadow, but you can't see me. So I've just moved the camera so that you can kind of see a little bit more of what I'm doing. It's a bit wonky. Let me just try and fix that. There we go. All right, so I've got my 3-inch brush, my premium chalk paint, and I'm gonna load up quite liberally, and all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna work it in a cross-hatch kind of style. Very quick to do. The key here is you can't be perfect. It's the art of being imperfect. So I'm going to just keep over brushing like that, and I'm just going to leave that to kind of air dry a little bit. Let's move down here so you can see. So it's super fast to do. You can literally paint a room in an afternoon, and it dries very, very quickly as well. So lots of kind of like loading, and we're wanting subtle texture, so we're not wanting it to be overly textured. And you can see the coverage of Imperial Linen over white here. It's amazing coverage. So when you're loading up quite thickly as well, you'll kind of gain your coverage very, very quickly. But we are going to do a half coat on here once it's dry. So what you want to do is kind of just keep working the section. Look at that. Just so quick. So cross hatch, moving in all directions, and then you're going to go back up to where you started, and you're going to kind of just move that around again. You kind of want it to give it some air time, just to kind of thicken up, and you've got to move it around like so. So just kind of painting large kind of cross hatch style with your brush. You can hold it like that and create some purposeful marks if you want to. Keeping the brush quite flat to the wall at the end and just moving it around. And you can see the textures, and you can create the textures that you want. Lift the pressure off my brush and cross hatch it, but kind of almost like tickling it, like it's like you're feathering it, because I really just want subtle textures. We're not after chunky rustic textures. on here. So that's step one. So this is after the first coat. You can kind of see the brush movements there. If I kind of go like that, you can see it's all wet. It's going to take a bit of time to dry, not much time. So there we go. As the light, if I kind of move the camera around, you can kind of see the textures. Great coverage on the first coat. There we are. So here's the first coat, all dry, so it's got that really lovely matte finish. If I go up close, you can still see areas where, just where the sweeping of the brush, you can still see the original colour, like there. And some areas are fully covered. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do a second kind of half coat. So what we're going to do is go back and do a half coat. And what I mean by that is we're just going to focus on the areas maybe where it's not been completely covered. We don't want to cover the whole thing. Like, we don't want to do a full second coat. Just kind of some areas. This helps to create the variation in textures. It also helps to create, when we go to do the end part, variation in sheen levels. So just here and there. Always kind of working in that crosshatch kind of style. Second coat, or the second half coat, is super quick. Literally little to no time. And that's pretty much it for my second half coat. So I'll just grab the camera off the stand and show you. There you go, you can see where it's dry and where it's wet. So that is the extent of my second half coat. You can kind of see where the wet areas are and what I've actually done. So it's a real quick second coat, if you like. You want to leave that to dry and do its thing now. Here's the second coat, all dry. Just holding the camera so you can kind of see. The shadow's kind of getting in the way a little bit. Now, even though I've painted using crosshatch style, when you stand back, the texture is very, very subtle. It's very flat looking. So these next two steps is what's really going to bring out the texture. Before me, I have one of these. I don't know what they're called. It's a hand sander thing, manual. So you just put your sandpaper on, and we're going to give the wall a light sand. Oh, it's called a hand sander. What I'm going to do is I'm going to very, very lightly just run it along, just to get rid of any irregular textures. And that's pretty much it. So if you find, what happens when you're sanding is it just comes off like chalk dust. You'll be the premium chalk paint will just kind of powder off as you're sanding. And all I'm doing is just making sure there's no irregular textures on there. If you find that you've sanded down too far and you're showing the underlying colour, you can just touch up that area. Super easy. It'll blend back in. So quick light sand, and we're on to the next step. Now in front of me I've got just a really damp, with water, nothing else, just some water, a damp rag, and I'm going to run it over. So we're going through and we're kind of going to burnish it with just kind of like a buffing motion. But what I'm going to do is put the water, wipe the whole wall with a damp rag. You can kind of see the colour getting darker where the water is, and that's the original premium chalk paint colour. So that kind of looks like the same way it does when it's waxed. But we're going to let the water go through the chalk paint and then dry, come back out of the chalk paint and dry, and then we're going to buff it. So I'm just going to quickly do the rest of the wall. And it doesn't have to be over everything, it's just, you know, majority. So it doesn't, you don't have to take, it's not like waxing where you have to make sure that you kind of cover everything, but just a majority of it. Just a quick wipe with a damp rag. Alright, so it's wet there, and you need to wait for it to dry off. So how do you tell when it dries off? The colour will lift back up to a lighter, kind of more chalky version of itself. That's when you know. You can kind of see it starting to dry off and lighten up almost straight away. So it doesn't take long for this part to happen. But what you're going to need now is either a really dry, a couple of dry rags or a buffing cloth, and we're going to buff it a little bit. I might actually hold the camera so you can actually see what I'm doing. So I'm just going to grab my rag, and in a rubbing motion, let me just show you in this area, just going to buff it. Okay. So I'm just going to kind of buff it, and the premium chalk paint will kind of sheen up. You'll get a subtle sheen on it. So you can see there where I've buffed it. Now you can hand buff it like I am. It's just kind of like a rubbing motion. You're just kind of buffing the paint. You'll see the sheen come up, and the more you buff, the more sheen you'll get. So you can see there where I've buffed it, it's getting a sheen there. I'm trying to do another area so you can see. So I'll go down here. So you can kind of see that sheen coming through. Now, if you've got an electric sander, you can put a buffing cloth at the end of it and just run your electric sander across your walls, buffing your walls at the same time. But it's easy enough to do by hand. It's a bit more of a workout. And it's reasonably quick. Just kind of keep the motion going and you'll see the sheen come up. So I'll just finish off doing the walls. And there you have it. Beautiful, soft, textured, lived-in walls using your Artisan Premium Chalk Paint. Varied sheen levels, feels sealed and soft and smooth and silky. Wipeable. Easy to touch up if you ever get any damage. Great for imperfect walls. Very, very subtle shadowing and shading, and it really just depends on how the light hits it, and throughout the day it will highlight different parts of the wall, and it's just super gentle. So that's it. Now the beauty here really does lie within the varied textures and varied sheen levels created across the walls. It's a finish that evolves throughout the day as the light moves across it, and it will pinpoint different textures and different shadows and different parts of the walls. It's a beautiful artisanal style wall that is very, very soft, very, very subtle, and people often think it's quite hard to create, but is actually quite simple with a little bit of know-how using the quality and properties from the Artisan Premium Chalk Paints. It's a finish that works well in both light and dark colours. I really hope this video has helped to inspire you to look at your premium chalk paints in a different light. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you again on here very, very soon.